Hello and welcome to this edition of Defacto Review, a weekly roundup of the biggest stories shaping Mongolia. Here with us tonight is a commentator, Defacto, and I'm Terrence Edwards.
Good evening.
We're live on Facebook at V Television. We want to hear your thoughts, so send comments on Twitter with hashtag #Defacto. Okay, coming up this week on the program. Mongolian Customs suspends the clearance of coal exports as officials work to clear up dangerous traffic queue. Top figures from Mongolian People's Revolutionary Party battle for control. Former top spy Khurts confirmed as South Korean ambassador amid controversies over checkered past. And government establishes new health insurance agency as Mongolians suffer from worst cases of toxic air, failing livers, and more. Okay, we begin with our first story of the evening. Mongolia's customs has suspended the clearance of coal shipments into China at the main border point for miners in the Gobi Desert as it works to clear up an infamous traffic queue stretching past 100 kilometers. Mongolia's Ministry of Mining and Heavy Industry said the suspension would last between 7 and 10 days until the traffic jam had completely cleared on the road. That was reported by Reuters. Meanwhile, companies are now restricted by quotas for the number of trucks they're allowed to send out, and a new route to the border is being established. Coal has played a key role in this revival of Mongolia's economy, with the higher prices companies can now earn from Chinese buyers. However, these exports have slowed considerably since problems at the border began last July. Authorities say they are cracking down on this smuggling of meat and other contraband. So we've discussed this a little in the past, but can you just remind our viewers what exactly is going on at the border?
Well, there's a log jams of trucks.
Yeah.
Over 140 or 150 kilometers long. So the minister, a few days ago, of mining had closed. They said that don't anymore load coal. But does it solve all problems? No, because the source of problem is with, I believe, the very approach of the strategic mines idea. Since Tavan became strategic mines,
yeah,
it became owned by state control.
Yeah.
After being state control, they lost a responsibility, because the state government cannot check itself. As a result, this Tavan Tolgoi state-owned one, there is another part of Tavan Tolgoi also, local IMAG owns certain shares. So these both are now selling coal at the mine. And they don't much take responsibility for transporting that coal to the border,
yes,
or through the border. It started since they have established, and eventually it came to such a level that it is unmanageable. Two reasons. One is there was 8 gates to go through. They were sending by the companies, transport companies. And by the way, these transport companies have been receiving permission from the OTA Transportation Agency of Mongolia. And they somehow give these permissions to so many trucks, yeah, that today it is not manageable, because nobody is centralized knows how many of them are there, because each of them have own. For example, before these trucks were now on this road, before it was Chinese trucks and Chinese drivers, which made local people completely unhappy, and then the government decided to make only Mongolian drivers can go. Then Chinese hired Mongolian drivers. A
lot of them are driving Chinese trucks.
With their Chinese trucks, and they are paid as soon as they cross the border in the Chinese side.
Yes.
Which made there is no social insurance, no salary, no proper safety, etc. And which was the start of all this disorder on the road. I was on that road last week. I mean, a few days ago, and I saw trucks overturned, rolled over. And because they stopped the transportation now, it was relatively less. But this is not complete solutions. So it is the responsibility of mines to take care of the whole through value chains from extracting the coal,
Yeah.
transporting and selling across the border. And they are not taking responsibility for the transport actually. So it is a matter of having an order in-house before then our officials go and talk to Chinese.
Yeah.
Of course, there is also, I read myself, like they decreased the gates from 4 to 2, which started to make this logjams.
There's fewer trucks passing the border into China.
Yes, twice less, and it is some connected with the presidential elections and its result. So hopefully, if these two presidents meet, this sort of problems, if there is, will be solved.
So you think maybe China is actually punishing Mongolia because of things the president said, or?
Yes, that's what many ordinary Mongolians think in that
Yes.
way. In a particular,
Of course, China's never stated anything of the sort.
not at all. And our president was always against the railroad that MCS, one of the player of 3-4 major extractors of Tavan Tolgoi. That company was planning to make a railroad, everything was ready, just they need the permission from the state, and then Mr. Current President found that it is very dangerous for safety of the country,
Yeah.
and in particular if you make it with the Chinese narrow gauge. So he was suggesting to make it a Russian gauge and to take it through Russia, which is very far. So this sort of political fights happened for last 10 years.
A lot of industry people said it was inefficient because you would have to move the wagon onto Chinese gauge eventually anyway. And this actually doesn't even go to the main Trans-Mongolian railway line, so a lot of people thought it wasn't a very logical argument.
But however, Terence, all Mongolian export of mines go only to China.
Yes.
Russia has all this themselves, and they are competing in case of coal, for example, with Mongolia to sell to China.
Yeah, and they don't go through Mongolia. They go through
it has
Russia
a
to
business
China directly.
feasibility, business logic to
Yeah.
use Chinese gauge to send all the way through the railway to the east coast of China, which is the major consumer of our coal. All coking coal comes to the east part of China, where there's more concentration of metallurgy plants. So it has a sense for Mongolia to sell that through the narrow gauge railway all our
That
minerals.
China uses and most of the world uses.
Even more than that, I suggested, in my article once called Mongolia is next Panama. In that I suggested that China and Russia has different network of railways gauge system. Railway network with a different gauge.
Yeah.
And they will never accept each other gauge. It's too expensive for them to do so. So let's do it in Mongolia. Let's be in the middle of our territory.
Yeah.
Let's have this whole switching boards.
It's what
machines,
North
everything.
Korea was doing before there were sanctions on the country.
Yeah, kind of, yes. So let's think bigger, let's get off these corruptions, let's make better governance, let's make more responsible mining, then have a more smartly planned transportation of coal so that if there is a long queue, we don't load the trucks, that's all.
Yeah. So fewer coal is passing from Mongolia to China. What is actually the economic cost, do you think?
This year, we export more than any other year coal to China. By first 11 months, we made a lot, already 40 million.
Yeah.
40 million tons of coal was sent to China, which is the record number. And it could be even more if we have normal transportation or the processes.
If there wasn't these problems
customs.
since last July.
So that's why the almost 30 millions of it was done by the July.
Yeah.
So the remaining is very little, but however, still we make already money. But unfortunately, the price is way lower than international price, just because our Mongolian mines are competing with each other in dumping prices.
Yeah.
And it's unacceptable. And the only private company, the MCS or energy resources, are selling with higher price, and plus they have a capacity of washing
Yes.
plant, and
They
they
have
are
a wash
washing
plant.
and they're selling more higher because it's washed. And yet these other two Mongolian state-owned companies that don't want to use that plant, they sell it they take the best part of the deposits and sell it. And what will happen with the lower grade of the coal? So this is another problem is happening. All this thing happening because the state cannot or monitor or watch or control itself. Very simple.
So the government has announced steps they're taking. They've suspended the road and they want to clear it. They will establish a new route. Do you think, and they're also going to establish they also have quotas for the companies. Do you think this is going far enough? The government must be aware that this is costing them quite a bit.
Well, at the end, the bottleneck is the railways anyway.
Yes.
So before they do...
You're saying replacing the road route with a railway route.
The car road, right now, auto road should be replaced by railways.
Yeah.
However, the money, before it was planned to make by private sector, now it looks like they buy, again, the public sector, which may cause an issue of certain risk. What happens if China will find any reason to stop or to limit the export? Then who will pay for this invested infrastructure and the money we have borrowed for making that infrastructure?
Yeah. Well, we're going to move up to our second story of the evening. Party loyalists of the MPRP, the Mongolian People's Revolutionary Party, to the founder, Namber Enkbayer, are protesting his ousting and the replacement by the party's sole representative on the parliament. MP October Basanghu was this week voted as the party's chairman to succeed Enkbayer at a party congress this week. This is the first time in the party's 8-year history that Enkbayer will not lead the party he founded as a breakaway faction from the Mongolian People's Party. Some will not stand for the change, however, including former presidential nominee Sanhu Gambatar. The critics say the vote was illegal, and Enkbayer himself said he will not forfeit the party seal until the Supreme Court rules on the decision. So, is this a turning point for the Mongolian People's Revolutionary Party? Can it succeed can it go any further without its founder, who is really central to the party?
Yeah, this party history itself is very problematic. Because the Revolutionary Party is the old name of the current People's Party. They have taken from their names the word peoples. And then, according to the ex-president Namber Enkbayer, who is the head of this party up to now, he said that the name was permitted to take by the previous president Ilbegedorj. They had some secret negotiations if Enkbayer will support his candidacy for the president. That was just before presidential elections. He will give the name, he will allow the name to be permitted to be continued by this Enkbayer, which was very strange, I would say, corruptional case. Because you support me, then I will give you permission to the president. That's according to the open interview the ex-president Enkbayer made. So what does it say is the political parties' permissions, names, all are under the subject of a sole person of Mongolian president.
Yeah.
And I should note, for the sake of justice, that now Mongolian legal system, court system, is really working unfairly for political parties. If they don't like the political parties, in particular at this time when the country is run by two major parties, if there is any serious candidates come, they tend to not to even permit the political party, which is against the democracy. The very fact that, for example, Mr. Enkbayer is saying that if the court will find this the last week Congress of the party illegal, he will not give the seal. What does the seal mean in the case? The two strange things. You know, in Mongolia, the political parties are the only parties, like any democracy, institutions that takes all power, state power. But these political institutions are not mature. They have been never developed to their maturity, though they are promising. And as a result, it is both political parties are controlled by oligarchs, people who has money. And they do whatever they want with this political party, which in their own turn, when they are in power, they make decisions suitable for these businesses.
Yeah.
So it is, if you see a bigger picture, it's a matter of the governance of Mongolia, whether it is democratic, whether it is open, transparent, or it is corrupt, closed, or dependent on one person like a private property. That's the situation, and this is just one, this People's Party Congress is just expressions of that top of the iceberg.
Yeah.
In general, these political parties in this country to grow and grow to make a further maturity in their age.
So when I heard this story, it was a bit of deja vu. This is not the first time Gambatar has been at the center of a party struggle for the leadership. Can you talk a little bit about that? Is he just being disruptive to the parties? He was formerly an independent. And he doesn't speak very highly of the major parties.
Mr. Gambatar has a unique capability and talent to be in the center of political arena. Every time he comes in, he is always in the center. And he was so when he was independent candidate, independent parliament member, he was a head of a trade union.
Yep.
And later on, he was invited by Inkbayar to be a candidate for the People's Party from that time. He has that sort of unique capacity, but institutionally, he has not succeeded to make an institution as a leader of an institution.
Yeah.
He's strong, single player.
Yeah.
So one day, if he is coming as a leader, turning into a truly leader, he may have a political party that can compete with the current power.
Yeah, but the other thing to look at is if he has so much trouble running even a party, a small institution at that, how well would he do actually running a country if he had been elected president?
Well, it's hard. It depends now. Once the presidential institutions is also very symbolic.
Yeah.
Yet they can somehow control the judicial system.
Yeah.
By nominating or denominating the members.
It's
of
certainly
the
not
court.
purely political.
That's why also
symbolic.
again it's a kind of teamwork.
Yeah.
It depends on with whom he will be in a team.
We're going to move on to our third story. The former head of the General Intelligence Agency, the GIA, and a spy that once was arrested in Germany for murder, Bat Khurts, has been confirmed as the ambassador of South Korea despite protests from some parliament members. Khurts is an accomplished intelligence officer whose resume includes field assignments as an intelligence officer, a lead position at the Independent Agency Against Corruption, and the head of the GIA. However, his past is checkered by his former spy career, including the arrest in 2011 and the alleged murder of Derman Enkbat. Enkbat was suspected for the involvement in the assassination of Sanjisurin Zorik. When Khurts kidnapped that individual and brought him to Mongolia, where he died in prison. So, both closed and open hearings were held. Why the secrecy?
Very strange thing happening in the history of Mongolian parliament. First, there was open and closed hearings at the same time on the same one person in the parliament. Open because Mr. Khurts being blamed for several, as you said, the cases where his colleague was imprisoned for years, and this case of Derman Enkbat, who was smuggled by him, and later on he died in prison.
Yeah.
Because his illness, according to the official news that time, his relatives were at that open hearing.
Yeah. So
open hearing was about Mr. Khurts, what he was doing wrong, etc. And it was organized by several parliament members, including Mr. Lobolt, Batzandan. Then another three parliament members joined them later on, those who said, who who didn't go or left the secret hearing or closed hearing. The closed hearing was first time happened just for nomination of an ambassador. And these three, Mr. Nyamdorj, Oyung Irdin, Miss Oyun Chimek, they not agree with that closed hearings of just nomination of one ambassador.
Yeah.
So they went to the, but the core of the matter is why Mongolian parliament members are so much afraid of this man, this person, who is former head of spy agency. Because he knows a lot of materials about many parliament members.
Yeah.
And if he knew the sort of, usually corruptions, right, misusing of public funds, now I would like to ask Mr. Khurts, why you would not take measure as soon as you know that wrongdoing, if he was...
Why did you sit on it?
Yes, why are you sitting on that?
Yeah.
And why you could not take a proper measure at that time when it is happening or when you have this information?
Yeah.
If you have been doing that, then we would have a less corruption. We have less poverty. Then Mongolians, ordinary people, will not only nominate him to an ambassador,
Yeah.
we will nominate him to a hero of the country.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it is not the case. He was using his power or the extraordinary, the monopoly of knowledge and information only when it is needed for him. So people are not happy about that.
Yeah.
And another reason, I think, there was a closed hearing is, because firing him was illegal. Because the head of our spy agency and the deputy head can be only fired in 3 cases. First, upon their own request. Second, health issue. Third, the term is finished. None of them happened actually. So I think during this closed hearing, probably there was a trade-off. They nominate him as ambassador, which is good for many the parliament members, and I think he signed the letter that requesting him to release from his official positions.
Yeah.
So that's I assume it happened, but again, it is not very good for our democracy.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like in American history, there was the FBI chief, J. Edgar Hoover, who actually kept files on a lot of politicians to blackmail them. So it does seem you're suggesting there may have been a trade-off. I'll keep quiet if you confirm me.
The same history happened in many other countries. In history, actually, in England, for example, when there was no aircraft, there was sent by ship, which takes a month to go somewhere. So they were saying that we call it sending for ambassadorship jail, kind of. This sort of things happened, unfortunately, in Mongolia, and it is a big food for thoughts for ordinary Mongolians. Similar thing happened also recently with the Nazarbayev son-in-law, who was sent as ambassador to Austria. Later he was arrested, even killed. And also Karimov, Uzbekistan former ex-president, was sending his daughter as ambassador to Switzerland just to keep her far away. So a similar thing is happening in Mongolia anyway.
Yeah. So this is a very public job. It's a diplomatic position. What do you think, if at all, there will be a reaction from the global community?
Well, global community has even more headaches, like Jerusalem being capital of, this UN Security Council is busy at a small matter. But however, I think principles are principles. So
it might reflect badly.
It might reflect back, and I don't know if what will be reaction of the South Korea, but overall Mongolia had finally nominate and they're going to send our ambassador to the South Korea.
Great. We have one more story for the evening. The Okna Horsu cabinet has established a new government agency that's responsible for improving health services in Mongolia. The General Authority for Health Insurance will work to create conditions for the equal treatment for healthcare throughout the country. So let's talk a little bit about the main health concerns afflicting Mongolians today. And how do you think this agency can actually help with those?
You know, it's like you have in English proverb, throw a baby after washed water.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Don't throw the baby out with the water.
Yes, but now they're doing it in Mongolia because the main fight between two ministries had happened for years. Ministry of Social Care, Ministry of Health Care, both wanted to be a boss of the health insurance, public health insurance.
Sure.
And the social care, labor and social care ministry was taken care of for years, and they didn't like it. Now somehow under these circumstances, in political parties, positions or powers balance, now the Ministry of Health Care will be responsible for this new agency, which is a social health care agency of Mongolia.
Yes,
Healthcare
General Authority for Health Insurance.
Yes, General Authority for Health Insurance, which I don't believe will work properly, because now what happens is the service provider, which is Minister of Health, is responsible. Now also paying with one hand to themselves the money from us to themselves.
It's a little bit too inside.
And I mean, then who is checking? Who is checking, doing check and balance?
Yeah.
Nobody. So I don't believe that in the current corrupt situation of Mongolian governance that it will work better, and which is very unfortunate, because we need seriously normally working social and health insurance system in this country. Because it works all malfunctioning, we have even, you know, from social health, the insurance for health, we pay for certain pills, medicines received by a certain category of people from that insurance system.
Yeah.
You know what is the result? They keep paying even for drugs that require prescription. You call it receipt? No, prescription.
Prescriptions.
So they do it now, give it without prescription, many pills, medicines.
It's easily obtained from pharmacies.
What happens is now Mongolians don't eat any more food. They eat pills, unfortunately, which is very bad. And plus, they say 30% of medicines in our drugstores are fake or not permitted by the standard of this country. So in that circumstances, situations will be, I think, worsening.
Yeah.
And the quality of services will not be increased unless people pay more attention to monitoring of this health insurance, public health insurance. But I don't think we have enough information, power, knowledge, consciousness to control the sort of functions of this insurance system. So I wish Mongolians more control our government and more monitoring, and we have more institutional capacity to do so. But still, it is a lot ahead in the future.
I'm going to let you have the final word right there. That's our show for the evening. We hope our briefings give you a leg up as you join the new work week. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, thank you very much for watching our program. We try with Terence to highlight 3 or 4 major events in the country and to share with you our opinions, independent, non-political, that please tell us what's happening and how you do find this program, and let us know also what you would like to hear more. Thank you very much.
Good night, Alan Batar.
Bye.